Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Paths and Disciplines. We will be covering tonight the paradigms of magic, the energy model part. So this will be part 2 of last night's discussion. The energy model. With the triumphant march of mesmerism around the turn of the 18th century, the Western conscious minds began to focus on internal bodily process and energies. Although Mesmer basically only rediscovered ancient healing methods, hypnotism, suggestion, healing, sleep, he made then social acceptable in a culture that had made a clear distinction between the body and spirit for centuries. Suddenly, it was a sensational news to learn that the mind can influence the body, even make it sick or heal it, which I'm sure many of us have already understand this philosophy, especially when we seem to easily get sicker and sick when we're depressed, or we start taking on emotions like anger, because for all emotions are, as I've mentioned in other posts, is just forms of energy. They all have a purpose and serve a purpose. What is our mind? Our mind controls our, say brain, not mind. Our brain functions like a battery, so to speak, sending electrical charges throughout our body for different functions. I mean, you can take your hand over your arm or any part of your body, and you can feel energy rising up to your hand from that part of your body. And as we know, that everything in this world and the universe around us has energy. It flows. For Mesmer, the means for all healing was animal magnetism, a vital force that cannot be more closely defined in scientific terms. The concept of viral force, developed by Buller-Layton, who was a Rosicrucian and a magician himself, as well as the O.T.O teachings of Rickenback, are both proof of the impact that this change in awareness had, which significantly influenced Hammond's homeopathy as well, which is a predecessor to cyber magic. And Baller's friend, the extraordinarily influential magician Eliphas Levi. But to see his true brilliance, one must be able to read past Levi's ego and eccentric views. Caused quite an uproar in the occult since just about 50 years after Mesmer's death with his concept of astral light. This mode, significant impact on magic as well, although the Golden Dawn still primarily remains loyal to the old spirit module. Even a century after Mesmer's death, it has been strongly softened by psychological and animistic elements such as those taken from the Indian yoga teachings of the chakra and prana. But the energy model didn't actually celebrate its climax until after World War II, or more specifically during the occult renaissance of the 1960s. That mainly took place in England. This was aided by the strongly influence of psychoanalysis, which didn't make its big breakthrough until after the war, Even though magicians such as W.B. Yeats, Austin Osmar Spera, and Aleister Crowley began integrating the concepts of psychoanalysis into their magical practice at a relatively early date. The magician, in general, the energy model in its pure form rejects every kind of spiritual thesis. The magician is no longer a conjurer of spirits, but more of an energy occultist. The focus is on subtle perceptions, and the magician must be able to perceive, polarize, charge, and direct energies. When the magician wants to transfer power, and that is the main focus of the energy model, one either has to have enough power to do the job him or herself, or one needs to access to one or more power sources. And I want to stop right there and discuss that just a bit. There's a reason why, sometimes we don't do things solo. Sometimes we want to bring in a group of people. We want to add to the energy. They're basically channeling their energy into the one that is actually doing the ritual. That's why it's important everybody needs to be of one sound mind and one goal. That's why you're to not bring outside influences into the circle. And that's what we can get into. That's why where silence and secrecy comes in. The less people that know, the less outside influences that are brought in, less people that can affect the outcome or hinder the outcome. In the first case, the magician becomes a walking battery, which the second magician becomes a channel or a medium for the higher, or at least other powers. And power isn't always just power. Depending on the system of magic used, the spectrum ranges from a complicated web of positive and negative energies to the neutrality thesis, in which the magician, his or herself, is responsible for polarizing the naturally neutral energies. With the later, there's always too much or too little desired or undesired energy. For example, too much fire in the direction area, infection, the equation of posture, good and negative, bad, which is usually denied in theory but often found in practice. Nonetheless, generally doesn't apply here. And the only important thing is the ability to direct the energy to its proper place. Depending on the amount of power required, the magician might even be too weak to act. In magical warfare, the strongest magician always wins, not the good one, unless the weakened one can be compensated for lack of power through speed and skill, or through the other underestimating the other one, which is another way it's done. The magician must be able to rely on oneself for, at least, on physical colleagues who might help, and pray that are true and trusted colleagues. And there is no using and summoning a higher authority, although one can try using a stronger energy than one's opponent. This natural demands higher performance from the magician as well. One must be able to do just about everything without any elemental help, including help from beyond, and needs to have a very high level of personal energy, since this self mainly functions as a power battery. When one is weak and tired, the quality of magical operation will suffer, and the effectiveness of one's magic depends directly on the quantity of one's own energy, which actually holds true in anything we do. You know, I know some people, when we do big rituals, will have that residual effect of tons of energy that after the ritual for days, sometimes weeks. But when it's like a high. Eventually we come down, and we come down, then we feel weak. We feel all that energy that we had actually built up and spent. You know, we always want to make sure we're fully charged, either by getting a good night's sleep, taking a Sabbath, taking a break from any type of work, having fun, or, hey, you know where some of the best places to draw and to actually do rituals are at? Go to a concert. You get all the people, you get all that energy. The only thing is you have to know how to wield it, know how to take only what is needed, or take it all and be able to weave it to where everything is structured in a way that it's going to affect only your goal. Even the negative energies play a part because you're using it as energy, you're balancing it, counterbalancing it, and balancing it with positive. You have to learn how to weave the energies. But once you do, you have an endless supply of energy because we're surrounded by energy. Trees, grass, air, people. The universe in itself, the stars and moons, all produce energy. The sun. So there's really no excuse for you to ever lack energy. Just draw from what's around you. Don't be drawn from other people just to drain them, because that's just, you might get the wrong person and might regret it later. Common sense there, guys. Plus, one also needs to have excellent, well-trained, and reliable skills and subtle perception. On a final note to this, many may read this and think to themselves that all other modules are not used or obsolete. That is far from the truth, for in this world everything is made up of energy. We each have our own unique energy. It is the idea of being able to use everything and not limiting ourselves and viewing things as good or evil, but finding the right mixture, for it is a part of us no matter what path or what you wish to call yourself. One must find their own medium, a balancing point, but always try to better that, never be satisfied that you have found it. And one very important thing, one must learn to control their ego, or it will be his or hers downfall. And every magician will deal with this throughout their life. It has many terms. Let's just call it a God complex. And woe to him that falls into this, for the fall will be great. Which is very true. You know, truthfully, that was Crowley's major downfall. He was a megalomaniac. He got a God complex. You know, he's easy to quote from for me. But understanding that he was also understanding that he was a very bad role model is another good aspect, because, well, it's just like Elias Levi. He did some awesome work. But man, you got to take that guy's ego and certain views and be able to put them aside. But you got to do that with anything in our community, any text you read. Only take that which speaks to you. Because even in that self, as I've went on to have said, Our most powerful thing is our words. Our written words have power. When we write something, whether you realize it or not, as you write it, you're giving it energy. You're giving it power. Granted, most of the time, because we're not focusing on it or we're not meaning to have, it has no power, real power. But yet that written word may speak to someone that needs that. That's the beautiful thing about the energy model. As you learn, you start to see why people got away from the spiritual model. Because in a sense, you're still dealing with energies. You know? Why does one take on a God form? Well, we take on a God form for the aspects that are of that God form, the energies. Basically, all the God form becomes is a focal point, or a way to reach a certain state of gnosis. You know, but then there's also the aspect. Well, let's say you're burnt out. You had just done a ritual. You come down from all the energy that you've drawn in. It's been full, and you need something comes up, and you desperately need to do another ritual. This is when you can switch from the energy model to the spiritual model and summon a spirit to do your work, because you don't have that energy. Even though you truthfully do, it's all around you. You just got to draw it in. But that's the whole point of being able to jump from one paradigm to another. That's why it's important to know them all and study them and understand them. It gives you access to more things. Once you understand the basic principles of them, the basic structures, the basic formulas, you begin to realize how it's an evolution. Evolution is the wrong word. I'm trying to think. It's stepping stones. Basically, you're graduating from one class to a higher class. You're awakening of recesses and access and those things in your mind that need to be accessed. Either, just like how I mentioned divination is a part of the spiritual model, but yet it holds a part also in the energy model, where you don't have to rely on the spirits, where you learned how to read energies, how everything has its unique energy. So emotion has its unique energy, whether it's love, hate, friendship. Now you can start seeing it. Empaths are naturally gifted at reading energy. You know, that's why I say, well, if you go to my altar, you see a black and a white or red candle, don't necessarily think you know what it means because of its color. I hold no value on color. Color means nothing to me. It's the energy that I apply it to it. The energy I give it that makes that candle what it may be. Whether it's for blessings or spell work or cleansing. You know, the easiest way to read a person, well, because those that know how to manipulate colors and auras, they can let you see what they want you to see. It's hard to manipulate your energy. Then if a person knows you well enough, it can get that unique energy signature. You can never hide that. You can't. I mean, you can manipulate certain energies. For those that don't know any better, yeah, they see what you want them to see. Or in my case, they see what they want to see. I don't care. You know, energy depending on mood. Oh, I don't want to be messed with. Well, that's what the energies that are being flowing from me. We have to learn to control them, bring them in or sweep them out. You know, we control that aura, that bubble. Either we keep it closed or we expand it. Which, as you can see, these energy principles go into the same aspect as our pentagram, our walking circle. We charge it. We give it its properties. We weave it around us, and it becomes a part of us. Therefore, we no longer rely on having to wear a pen. The pen's no longer a focal point. The energy is already there. We've made it manifest. We've created it. You know, and that's the getting in a debate with others, people that don't understand. And well, they view, well, you wear a pen. You know, why wear it? We don't need it. Why give something a tool power that we no longer need? It's a training object to reach a focal point. You know, we like wearing, you know, some people wear them as talismans. They put certain energies into them, which is okay. You know, just like when we create rooms and stuff. As we're doing the work, any ritual work, as we're doing it, we're charging it with our energy. We're putting the energy into it as we're meditating. We're channeling that. I mean, the energy module is probably the easiest, but yet the most misunderstood, in my opinion. Most people see it, don't realize it because it's worked so long with the spiritual module, and they don't understand exactly how important it is in our everyday practice. They don't realize how it's all around us. It affects everything around us. From high tide to low tide of our waters, which is the energies from the moon. As most people that studied just a little bit about astronomy knows that the sun's rays, when we pass through the flares and stuff, the coronas, that it affects our Earth. The energies that are being transmitted to the Earth can cause earthquakes. I mean, there's some sites you can go to and actually see it. When we're going through these high space solar winds, exactly as the highest peak, you can actually, if there's an earthquake, you can attribute that earthquake to the highest peak of the highest solar wind. It is a form of energy. So how much of that energy do we actually tap into? Because we just don't realize it. We're not tapping into our full potentials. You know, and a lot of that's because, you know, hey, nobody talks about it. Or it's only talked in the inner orders or the outer orders, whatever you want to call it. Guys, you have unlimited resources right at your fingertips that's flowing through you every day. It's all around you. The object is to start allowing it in a little at a time, feeling what it does to you, learning to read it. As you do, start weaving it with other energies so you can control your weave to balance it, to make it the perfect energy for the task at hand. I know sometimes we are our own worst enemies. We make it hard because we think too complex. When it's a simple thought. For me, simplicity kills me. Give me something complex, I will break it down for you quick. It's, like I said, it's the simple things. Well, what's the best place to hide something? Right in front of you in plain sight. You know, we gotta attune ourselves. We gotta open our third eye to be able to read energies. Like I said, empaths are naturally gifted at reading and seeing energies. I can't really see auras, but I can see the energies coming off people. I can read them. I can feel them. And yes, we can manipulate them. That's how a healer that works with healing energies heals. By taking the positive energies and focusing on the spot, and taking and drawing those harmful negative energies out of it. And there's other ways. I'm not an expert in the healing field. I have my own way of healing. And that's just simply taking and replacing it with something else, which is not the right way. It's just the downfall of being an empath. And still learning my way around the healing spheres. Because, well, healings can be dangerous. If done right, if done wrong. So it's all about what you think you can handle and what can you live with. You know, like I said, these modules are, once you read them and understand them, have it explained to you just a little bit, it will open those doors that are already inside you and unlock them to you, so you can start seeing those potential different ways to use, different ways to go about doing your daily rituals and meditation. I don't think anybody's tuned in, so I'd answer any questions that anybody has, but I don't see anybody in chat, so with that, I am going to end this video for the night. I will be doing part 3. Paradigms of Magic, a psychological module, a mixture. Tomorrow at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If you guys are enjoying these videos, share them, like, please subscribe. You know, and leave feedback. Leave your comments. I want to hear back from you. You know, it gives me ideas what to discuss for future topics. And it's all about learning from each other. You know, somebody, you know, and remember this saying. Some people say, well, it's a stupid question, a dumb question. Well, the only stupid and dumb question is the one that's not asked. Because apparently if you're thinking about it, there's a reason. So ask it. You know, I might be, just trust me, once I see comments, I will respond, I'll answer. For anybody that wants to jump in one of these live chats, private message me on Facebook, on YouTube, or go to my YouTube channel about the About section. There's my email address in there. And I'll be gladly to get back with you. some things that won't do. I'm not going to do live tarot readings. So don't ask. The things I want to discuss and talk about are just whatever comes to mind, whatever I feel drawn to. And I'm doing these because I think it'd be nice to have them to where people just come and watch. You know, I get tired of reading things. I get tired of typing things out. So, and sometimes I think it's easier to explain than it is to write. But like I said, hopefully, this channel grows and more people start watching. We'll be able to set out after the end of these and answer your questions, and maybe hopefully get a few more people to join in these live streams and share their own ideas. In the end, that's what it's about, us getting together as a whole, putting aside the different paths we walk, and learning from each other. And I'm not going to stop doing that or offering that to anyone. So, if you guys have a good night or good morning, whatever it may be for you. You guys have a safe work week, and I'll catch you tomorrow night.